So you get the scene? Imagine that. Imagine living every Valentine and being reminded you're almost there. You see what we do with something like that, and I'm constantly reminding us all, because most of us have a trapped block emotion. And what we'll do is we'll spend a lifetime trying to numb that pain out in some form. And that's what prevents us, those type of situations, whether it's a one traumatic event or it's a years of just not being loved unconditionally, whatever it is. When those get trapped inside of our heads and we don't do anything for them directly, then what oftentimes we do is we try to cover it up. We think if we pray enough, we read enough, we attend enough worship, something to make it go away. But at some point, you got to address it. And when you do, you release that energy. And how we did is, well, this last a year ago, yesterday, we went over on the ferry. It was a cold day. Yeah, on the 14th, it was on a Saturday. And we went and we sat there on the grave. And for 3.5 hours, Karen processed, released the emotion. You've been to the grave with your mother how many times? Once before, and you were old when you went to the first time? She was very young, so it had been 40 plus years since she'd been back to her mother's grave. And she processed that time in her life because it was a lot to her mind in an awesome way. And the difference is that she was able, Karen, a year later, is able to talk about it now. She had never been able to talk about it in public in any way. That's how much she trusted to share with you that story. That's what it does when we tap into it, free it, and then what starts to fill in behind it, which was there all along, was bliss. Was bliss. So what I want to share with you is a Valentine's story. So this is my Valentine's story on what not to buy for your loved one. What not to buy. Pocket taser stun gun. A great gift for the wife. A guy who purchased his lovely wife a pocket taser for Valentine submitted this article. Last weekend I saw something at Larry's Pistol and Pawn Shop that sparked my interest. The occasion was Valentine's Day and I was looking for a little something extra for my wife Julie. When I came across a 100,000 volt pocket purse sized taser. The effects of the taser were supposed to be short-lived, with no long-term adverse effect on your assailant, allowing her adequate time to retreat to safety. Way too cool, he thought. Long story short, I bought the device and brought it home. I loaded 2 AAA batteries in the darn thing and pushed the button. Nothing. I was disappointed. I learned, however, that if I pushed the button and pressed it against a metal surface at the same time, I'd get the blue arc of electricity darting back and forth between the prongs. Awesome! Unfortunately, I've yet to explain to Julie what that burn spot is on the face of her microwave. Are you getting the story here? Okay, so I was at home alone with this new toy, thinking to myself that it couldn't be all that bad with only 2 tiny little AAA batteries, right? There I sat in my recliner, my cat Gracie looking on intently. Trusty little soul that cat is. While I was reading the directions and thinking that I really needed to try this thing out on a flesh and blood moving target. I must admit I thought about zapping Gracie, but only for a fraction of a second, and thought better of it. She is such a sweet cat, but if I was going to give this thing to my wife to protect herself against a mugger, I did want some assurance that it would work as advertised. Am I wrong? So there I sat in a pair of shorts and a tank top with my reading glasses perched delicately on the bridge of my nose, directions in one hand and taser in another. Can you see where this is leading? The directions said a 1-second burst would shock and disorient your assailant. A 2-second burst was supposed to cause muscle spasms and a major loss of bodily control. A 3-second burst would purportedly make your assailant flop on the ground like a fish out of water. Any burst longer than 3 seconds would be wasting the batteries. All the while I'm looking at this pretty little device measuring about 5 inches long, less than 3/4 inch in circumference. Cute, really, and loaded with 2 little itsy-bitsy AAA batteries, thinking to myself, no possible way. What happened next is almost beyond description, but I'll do my best. I'm sitting there alone, Gracie looking on with her head cocked to one side as if to say, don't do it, dummy. Reasoning that a 1-second burst from such a tiny little old thing couldn't hurt all that bad, I decided to give myself a 1-second burst just for the heck of it. I touched the prongs to my naked thigh, pushed the button, and holy mother of God! Weapons of mass destruction, what the bleep! I'm pretty sure the wrestler Jesse Ventura ran in through the side door, picked me up in the recliner, and then body slammed us both on the carpet, over and over and over. Again, I vaguely recall waking up on my side in the fetal position, with tears in my eyes, body soaking wet, my personals nowhere to be found, with my left arm tucked under my body in the oddest of positions and tingling in my legs. The cat was making meowing sounds like I'd never heard before. The cat was clinging to a picture frame hanging above the fireplace, obviously in an attempt to avoid getting slammed by my body flopping all over the living room. Note, if you ever feel compelled to mug yourself with a taser, one note of caution, there is no such thing as a 1-second burst. When you zap yourself, you will not let go of that thing until it is dislodged from your hand by a violent thrashing around on the floor. A 3-second burst would be considered conservative. It hurts! A minute or so later, I can't be sure, as time was an irrelevant thing at this point, I collected my wits, what little I had left, sat up and surveyed the landscape. My bent reading glasses were on the mantel of the fireplace. The recliner was upside down and about 8 feet or so from where it originally was. My triceps, right thigh, and both nostrils were still twitching. My face felt like it had been shot up with Novocaine and my bottom lip weighed 88 pounds. I had no control over the drooling. Apparently, I lost control of my bodily functions, but was too numb to know for sure, and my sense of smell was gone. I saw a faint smoke cloud above my head, which I believe came from my hair. P.S. My wife can't stop laughing about my experience. She loved the gift, and now regularly threatens me anytime I get a hand with it. And she had a little writing, a little inspirational writing about Alice in Wonderland. And if you haven't seen Alice in Wonderland in a while, we watched it not too long ago, we have a video. If you haven't seen it, well, it's really a very metaphysical movie. And there's a scene in there where Alice in Wonderland, when she goes to the Red Queen, she says to Alice, "Tell me what you did tomorrow." And Alice says, "Tell you what I did tomorrow? I can't tell you what I did tomorrow." Then the Queen says, "Why not? Can't you remember?" Alice says, "Can't I remember? I can't remember what I did tomorrow. It hasn't happened yet." The Queen looks at her and she says, and here's the important words, "It's a pretty poor memory then that only works in one direction." What if our memory, in a sense, really could work in 2 directions? What if right now we could actually hold, in a sense, a memory of the rest of this day being in connection with God? We could see the rest of this week being so perfectly aligned with the guidance, the will, the love, the power, the peace that permeates the whole universe. What if we could sustain these moments of compassion and love that we felt for Karen? What if we could sustain that place that has been tugged on this week, this day, this moment? If we could sustain it and remember it through the week. Because the truth is, our brain, as I have spoken to you and shared what neuroscience says over and over, does not understand the difference between past and future. So indeed, we are always remembering tomorrow, every day. What do we stand upon on this day? For the love of bliss is that part that is so incredibly powerful that when we sustain it on a spiritual, cognitive level, we carry it through our daily life. And we share our bliss with those that we all need. Because everyone that we